Okay, goal of economics. This is what we did in the second class back at the beginning of the semester. So economics is the study of how to promote happiness through the production, consumption, and distribution of goods and services. Now, in economics, we answer that. How do we do that? And the answer really, in a broad sense, is to promote economic efficiency. Economic efficiency means producing at the lowest possible cost, greatest possible output, lowest possible waste of resources, and maximizing total market welfare is promoting economic efficiency. So really what the goal in economics, as we conceive of it, is to try to generate the most happiness to the most people. It's a very, if you're taking philosophy classes, it's a very utilitarian approach. It's not perfect. It's not the only thing maybe that's necessary for happiness. We're aware of that. We know that. But it is an important component of happiness. And it's happiness as generated through the consumption of goods and services that matters. And again, lots of other sources of happiness, but we're just focusing on the economic aspects. And that's what it means to improve economic efficiency. Now, there's a lot of folks out there will say, well, economic efficiency isn't everything. We should be concerned about other things. Of course, that's correct. But still, economic efficiency is important. And so let's go forward with that and see what our course has told us about that. Now, how do we achieve this goal? There's a couple of different methods. And so I want to contrast two different approaches to sort of solving the economic problem, if you will. So method number one is the free market approach. And this course has had a heavy emphasis on that. And I think it's an emphasis that is missing in a lot of other discussions in the public policy sphere. So it's important to kind of see, where do free market advocates come from and what are they thinking? Now, I'm going to talk, and a lot of times the free market approach is associated with the concept in America of conservatism. And we think about the political right and say that the right is conservative. But really, the free market approach is not conservative. It's what we're going to call classical liberal. And that's to distinguish it from the American term liberal, which means on the left, or as I'm going to highlight, a more government-involved approach to the economy. But classical liberalism is referring liberalism to freedom and sort of maximizing the freedom of individuals within a particular market and how to achieve that particular result. Okay, now, so what is the free market approach? Allow people the maximum freedom to satisfy their self-interest any way they like, consume what you like, produce what consumers want. Production is not driven by what producers want to do, but really what consumers demand. And as consumers demand different things, the most successful producers or businesses are those that are going to conform to the consumer wishes in a free market economy. And you can behave however you like, really in the pursuit of your own interests, as long as you don't minimize or diminish the ability of others to do the same thing. And that's an important caveat. I haven't emphasized that, but I'll throw that in right now. Free market approach tends to minimize the intervention of government and often has or displays minimal concern about society's inequalities and just sort of says, well, inequalities are there, but we don't really worry about them too much. That's an issue that I'll address towards the end of the lecture today, so we'll come back to that. Now, method number two, what we might call the liberal or progressive approach to the economic problem. So this says use the power of government to regulate economic outcomes. And I want to distinguish between two different sort of forms on the left, which is what we might call social democracy, which says, well, let's keep the free market. Let's maintain private ownership of the means of production and leave that free. But let's intervene in a lot of different ways with government interventions to help control behavior, to control market outcomes, to try to be more fair and more just in the allocation of goods and services across individuals. And that's very different from socialism, where socialism, in essence, means public ownership of the means of production. And our best example of kind of full-blown socialism would be to go back to the Soviet Union or China in the 1960s. And that would be when there was central planning and where the government owned everything, controlled production, and then made the decisions about what to produce, who was going to get it, how it was going to be allocated, and so forth. Okay, so there's a big difference between these two different types on the left, and we should be aware of that distinction. Now, what is the left trying to do? Well, prevent the deleterious effects of self-interest or greed, promote altruistic behavior. Certainly, there's a much stronger element of altruism or charity and the need for government to provide that altruistic outcome on the left-hand side. and trying to promote greater equality of economic outcomes. So